Is Vietnam really that bad of a country? Today, I want to look at an old article we looked at before. I've got a lot of comments on this video over the last couple years. And one of the biggest ones I get is Vietnam still this bad after the pandemic? We're going to look at the 10 harsh but true things about living in Vietnam or going to Vietnam before that you wish you probably should have known. So let's get into the first one. Fraud. It happens especially with tour companies and famous restaurants and stores. In Hanoi, Vietnam has more than 100 similar, the Sin Tourist, but there's only one booth that is real. The fake tour companies usually blah, 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 sell stuff. So whenever you do a tour, and I talked about this on a video, actually a week ago, whenever you book a tour in Vietnam, I strongly recommend going through real sites like booking.com, going through Airbnb if you're booking through them for your hotel. Any site like that. Now, if you're going through like Facebook, you're usually going to meet up with agents. I've said this a million times. Stay away from agents. They tend to cheat you. They tend to lowball the actual cost, and they tend to forward you off to somebody else. And what that does is, one, you lose your money because you have to prepay all this stuff, obviously, right? But two, you don't have any way to get a hold of this person because usually they're fake Facebook accounts. I could go on some AI website right now and make a Vietnamese AI person and start selling you garbage. It definitely is done. And it just says some tips. Make sure you're using the right tour company website. Again, I would avoid even the Vietnamese websites. Even if it says the tour.vn or whatever, I would just avoid it. Go to the location. If you're out in Ha Long Bay, just go to the pier. If you're in Saigon, you want to go see Cu Chi Ton or whatnot, book it with your hostel or just take a bus or a taxi out there and just walk up in there. Usually a lot of this stuff is free to go to in general, or the admissions is really cheap. Do keep that in mind. Short return of money. Some people will be shocked in places, Vietnam, that candy is returned instead of cash. This is still true. When I go shopping at local markets, because I go to like Vietnamese markets, I don't go to like Western markets. Usually what happens though, you see me, I'm not 5, I'm not 7, so candy's not going to entertain me and I will want money. But usually what I get is like, they'll notice I buy a lot of tofu or I buy a lot of chilies. So when there's change due, they'll usually just give me like a handful of chilies or maybe an extra piece or two of tofu. The reason for this is because they sell by weight, and sometimes the weight that you bought just doesn't break even, and they're not going to accept our 100 or 200 Vietnamese đồng. So unless it's 1,000 or above, they usually just give you something in compensation. This isn't cheating you at all. This is just that they don't actually have the change because the government doesn't actually make money this small, and it can't get that small. So not a bad thing at all. Number 2, airports. Stolen checked luggage. So you just arrived to Vietnam, you feel mad at this time, you don't know what happened, you're surprised. It's quite common at Vietnamese airports. I, as a local, have also suffered the similar situation. After the trips from Japan to Vietnam, one of my bags was opened. Fortunately, nothing valuable was stolen because I put clothes and candies in my checked luggage. Oh, I thought he said that he was worried his candy got stolen. Okay. So this happens all the time. This actually happens to everybody. There is no discrimination. If you're Vietnamese, Western, Chinese, Black, Mexican, whatever, if you are flying through a Vietnamese airline, you might get robbed. This actually happened to me when I was flying from, I think I was going from Saigon to Hanoi or something like that. I forgot. It's been like 7 years. But I forgot to put a lock on one of my suitcases. And I forgot to lock one of my bags. And my Gucci hat and Gucci scarf were stolen. Here's the crazy part. They weren't fake. And I'm pretty sure the people that stole them thought they were fake. So I had an $800 hat stolen. I had like a $2,000 scarf stolen. And it doesn't matter if you're using like American Airlines or Canadian or Australian Airlines, Indonesian Airlines, it doesn't matter. When it goes into a Vietnam airline or an airport, the Vietnamese staff are the ones that deal with the luggage. So they will see it and they have the opportunity to go through your stuff. Just avoiding Vietnamese air doesn't avoid this actual problem because this has to deal with the staff that's actually dealing with your luggage in the back. So just lock everything, like literally lock everything. You'll see Vietnamese people actually with their suitcases and boxes that they'll saran wrap the shit out of them. If you walk into an airport, actually, Saigon Airport's a good example, they'll have like these spinning machines where it'll just wrap your bag, your suitcase in the plastic. This is why. Be ready for that. Honestly, check out my older videos. I talk about packing lighter without sacrificing. If you are backpacking and traveling around Asia, you shouldn't be using check-on anyways because, I mean, you're paying like $30 to $50. like every bag. Like that's insane, especially if you're just flying from Saigon to like, I don't know, Vientiane, Laos or something like that. Like you're gonna buy a ticket for $30 and then the bag's like 50 to get on there. Just pack lighter. Number 3, crossing the streets in Vietnam. This is the most notorious thing that you hear about Vietnam. Like the biggest, I guess, talking point. They don't talk about politics. They don't talk about Ho Chi Minh. They don't talk about the money. They don't talk about hotels. They talk about crossing this damn road. And it is rather insane. Let's read it a little bit though. I'm sure it's an exciting experience for non-Vietnamese. It's not. There are not many road markers in Saigon, so crossing the road is quite scary. Don't be afraid, blah, blah. So I'm gonna say crossing a road in Vietnam is chaotic because there's no real rules and nobody follows any rules. I know you'll get a lot of these like professional expats, or you'll get these like professional Vietnamese people, like they're lawyers and stuff. There's a lot of Vietnamese lawyers that do YouTube videos, and it's insane to me how much they lie. I've said it. I've even commented on a few of them. There's actually this guy that did this video like 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and he was talking about how to retire in Vietnam in 2023, which is a complete lie. But I was like, maybe something changed, because I don't know everything. Sometimes things actually change. I've just never heard of Vietnam considering this, because I hear about government updates. I hear about them months in advance, like 6 months in advance sometimes. And I didn't hear about this, because this would have been a big deal. And when I get to his video, he just pretty much says for 8 minutes, Vietnam's amazing. This is why we're the best country in the world. And then the last minute, he's like, just get married, you can stay here forever. It's like, that's not retirement, my dude. That's a loophole. And he kind of just ignored the law of Vietnam and then just shot out this random loophole. So in regards, back to the subject though, crossing the roads in Vietnam, you just have to be careful. You truly have to be careful. Just walk. There's no rules. They will hit you. They don't care. Get out of their way. You'll notice it with honking. You'll notice it when you're walking on sidewalks. The best way to get across, and let's see what this Vietnamese person says. Don't be afraid to face lots of motorcycles, buses, okay. Cars. What is extenders? Are boats going down the road? First, you should wait a bit, continue, wait. I would actually hell no to that. You need to keep your eyes on vehicles on both sides. That's very true because bikes come from all directions, so do cars. The reason I say hell no to this, when you walk out there, just stay at a constant, steady pace. Vietnamese is, like I said, they drive, there's no rules, it's chaos. But as long as you just kind of keep going, they kind of realize, okay, go behind them or in front of them. But also understand, Vietnamese will hop sidewalks to get in front of you, even though you're a pedestrian crossing the street. So you just really have to walk slow and consistent. That's all you got to do. There are traffic lights in most of Vietnam, so you have that to your advantage. I mean, once you learn how to cross around Bui Vinh area in District 1, you're pretty much a pro. But past that, there is no real ways. I've always said this, and I know people take it the wrong way. If you're American, you know what jaywalking is. I really suggest in Vietnam just to jaywalk and avoid sidewalks, because you're at the corner of intersections, and that's where all the chaos actually happens. So I always advise people just jaywalk. Like if the main intersection's here to cross over here somewhere. Like just jaywalk, because now you're just fighting one way or possibly two ways of traffic. When you're going to a crosswalk, you're actually fighting up to 2, 4, 6, 8 different means of traffic. Because just because the light's red doesn't mean people are going to stop. They're still going to sneak through. And jaywalking is only an American law anyway, so I guess I could legally tell you to do this, is just jaywalk. Seriously, that's probably the safest thing you can do. And this actually leads to a good segue to traffic accidents. Traffic accidents are nasty in Vietnam. And let's go to read this because this is actually an important one. So according to the Traffic Police Department in 2016, so whatever these numbers are, we'll just inflate them by 4. Seriously. There's been more than 21,000 traffic accidents. Almost 9,000 died in that year. Okay. So around 24.5 people die per day because of traffic accidents in Vietnam. This number does not include the injured people. And this also doesn't include non-reported stuff. There are so many accidents that are not reported. If you remember, I was in Phu Mai. It's right next to Vung Tau, and I was out there, and I got in an accident, and my bike was pretty much totaled. Like it had to be reconstructed at Honda, and the other guy was borderline dead. It was pretty nasty. The guy was on the wrong side of the road, pretty much only wearing boxers, and he was talking on his phone. And this road that we were on was a highway. So I was driving, there's a semi going by me. Normal stuff, right? This bike cuts off the semi, flies right between, the semi and the sidewalk and hits me. Dude, he hit me hard. He had to be going like 60 70 kilometers an hour. And this dude flew like Superman. And he looked like he looked like he lived. Like he was functional. But he got effed up. And no police were ever involved. Like, I seriously waited there for like 45 minutes. I was trying to find out what was going on, like, because they picked him up. These Vietnamese people from this machine shop just came out, grabbed him, and took him to a hospital. Like, this was normal or something, or this was planned. I don't know. But everyone just kept telling me to leave. They're like, just get out of here, bro. Like, he's at the hospital. He's okay. Your bike, go take it to a shop. We can't fix it. You know, like, which pissed me off because he effed up my bike. Like, dude, it ended up costing because I gave it to a friend of mine, but he did have to fix it. I think he spent like $500 or $700, which is really unfortunate. I felt horrible. I really did. But at the same time, I can't. This is what happens in Vietnam is traffic accidents. So they do happen a lot. Now, I don't want to scare you with those numbers, but I must admit, traffic accidents happen regularly, and they do. And I've also had some traffic accidents every year when I was in Vietnam, and it took me at least 1 week to heal. Who cares? Don't mean that in a rude way. But yeah, in general, traffic in Vietnam is insane. It's chaotic and it happens all the time. The best thing you can do is have a helmet on. Make sure you have your mirrors because nobody's paying attention to you, man. Like when you're driving around a corner, drive slower. Be ready to brake at all times. People will fly in front of you. They don't look. If they're coming out to the intersection this way and traffic's coming from this way, right? They won't look and see if there's a car coming as they're merging in. And I mean, I don't even know if you call it merging. They just like rocket man into the road. I've never driven so defensively and aggressively in my life until I lived in Vietnam. Going out to Thailand and driving a car out there, I felt like I was in America, like minus the other side of the road, but I felt fine. Driving a bike out there, I felt fine. Laos, Cambodia, I felt fine. Out here in Malaysia, I've rented a bike a few times. I feel fine. Vietnam is a war zone. So be careful with that stuff. I strongly recommend doing like the Saigon to Hanoi or the Hanoi to Saigon bike ride. Takes you like 3 weeks to do it. I strongly suggest it. Most of these accidents, I mean, they kind of happen everywhere. I don't want to say they just happen in inner cities. They happen in the country. I've seen people like damn near die in inner city areas, and I've seen people almost lose everything in the countryside. Like when I was living out in Lazi, I saw this dude get ran over by a dump truck. This dude just flew out of the intersection. Like it was like the main road, and it was a small like alley road. He flew out of the small alley road. We were sitting in this coffee shop. He didn't even slow down. Like he just like, woo! In this dump truck. He tried to stop, and all you saw was this, and then the guy was under the dump truck. So I've seen a lot of stuff. It's not just regulated to the big cities. So you just be careful always. Tips to be safe. Yeah, just use public transportation. I would avoid the buses. They're insane. They're almost as dangerous as just walking, which is right here. Using taxis is fine. I strongly suggest using Grab. Don't hell down cabs. Most of them are scams. Remember we talked about this up here. Let's go back up a bit here. We talked about fraud. This isn't only for tourist traps. This is for taxis. Like it is so common for taxi people to buy white cars and tag on a taxi sign and just start driving around with a fake meter. It is ultra normal for that to happen. So use Grab for all your taxi needs. They support you with vans, cars, motorbikes, everything. But it's done. And do not walk up to people with a Grab jacket on. Make sure it registers on the phone and make sure the license plates match. My advice for that. If you are gonna walk, good luck. And moving on to number 5, I kind of got ahead of myself. Taxi scams. So I'm just going to say it again. When it comes to taxis, just use Grab and make sure the app matches whoever you go for. Just use Grab. Number 6, robbery. We actually just did a video on this, personal safety and whatnot. So let's just kind of see what he says about it. Robbery happens everywhere in Vietnam, and most common cases are robbery, your phones and bags. Yeah, robbery in Vietnam is all petty theft. You're not going to get like yanked into a van by 12 goons. You might, I don't know. I mean, they do have a lot of, I'm not gonna get into that, but typically as a tourist, you're gonna deal with mostly petty theft. Imagine you're riding your bike, motorcycle, walking, and somebody snags your bag, yeah. I once saw this happens a lot. So it's fine. It happens actually a lot to Vietnamese because you see a lot of Vietnamese girls, they just have their phones out all the time taking pictures and stuff. I saw it a lot in District 3. Like Vietnamese girls are just getting their phones snagged all the time while they're taking selfies. And the problem when they snag your phone is your phone's unlocked. So what they usually do is they will turn off your auto, like, you know, your phone kind of auto locks after a few minutes. As soon as they yank your phone, they turn that option off right away. So your phone is constantly always on. So and at that point, then they just jailbreak your phone and reset it or flash it, and then they sell it. My suggestion to this is just have straps on everything. If you wear a purse or like an over thing, have it under a jacket or like a, what do you call those? Like rain jackets or windbreakers. Like I would buy a windbreaker just to have it for your protection to cover the thing, because now they're gonna have to yank up your jacket and cut it. You're gonna realize what's going on before they even get to the cutting, right? Definitely that. His tips, obviously don't use your phone in public. I mean, you can, I do. I actually walk around with this camera in Vietnam and I don't have problems, but I have it strapped to me as well. And I always believe if you look like you shouldn't be effed with, you're not going to be effed with. And it's the same with girls. Like if you're a strong, confident, independent girl that looks like she knows what she's doing, a lot of Vietnamese won't mess with you. Your bag, obviously have a strap. Now, if you're riding a motorbike, actually, don't have your backpack on the back, have it on the front. I've had so many teacher friends have their backpacks stolen driving to schools. Definitely avoid that. Number 7, pickpocket, same thing. Don't use your back pockets. I always advise having money in your socks, have it hidden pockets, have the strap under a wind jacket. Just don't have things out, man, and don't use your back pockets. Hygiene and food safety. Everything in Vietnam is pretty shady. It's pretty dirty. Even the high-end restaurants usually buy their stuff from the street market. It's not healthy. Vietnamese food is fantastic, yada, yada, yada. Vietnamese food is good, don't get me wrong. I just didn't realize how safe it was, so I went to Vietnam for vacation after living in Japan, yeah. That's another thing too. When I first moved to Vietnam, I actually accepted it. You see this picture here. Like, if you look down here, it's just like, you can see like shit. Like, I don't know, it's like crap. But when I first moved to Vietnam, I kind of accepted it. And I just thought it was cool. But when I started going to like Thailand, and then I came back to Vietnam, I started realizing like how dirty it actually is. So Vietnam is definitely a dirty country. And when it comes to their food, there are no. Now, if you have any allergies or anything, good luck. You have really no chance of making sure that there isn't like peanut stuff in your food. If you have like types of allergies, you're gonna have a hard time out here. The best solution typically is going to like Indian restaurants that Indian people actually cook at, because they're usually vegan restaurants, so that's a good way to go. In regards to like health, yeah, it's quite hard, man. Yeah, he just pretty much says like have medicine, stuff like that, which is true. I never got sick in Vietnam. I actually got sick one time and I threw up, but it was because I cooked an egg roll. Like I literally, the only food poisoning time I ever had in Vietnam was because I gave it to myself. So Vietnam has never got me sick. The food is awesome, but yeah, you're gonna lose years off your life. And it's kind of a crazy thing. When I came back to America after like, 7 years in Vietnam, like my hair started like thickening again, my skin cleared up. Like I used to have like wrinkles everywhere. Like I'm being serious, I started looking younger again. So it definitely takes years off your life. Bad service, bad manners. I'm gonna get quick on these last two. We'll actually talk about pollution, like a quick bonus. Bad service in Vietnam. Vietnam has some of the worst customer service in all of Asia. Every Vietnamese person you say this to will tell you you're wrong, but they'll also tell you they've never left Vietnam. Vietnamese service is so horribly bad. You might once in a while have some good stuff. If you've only been to District 1 tourist areas, District 3, obviously it's gonna be good. If you're in District 7 or 2, obviously it's gonna be good. If you're in Old Town Hanoi where the government people work, obviously it's gonna be good. But the other 99% of Vietnam, it's hell. They're usually on their phones. They don't want to talk to you. You're wasting their time. They usually can't even hear what you're saying half the time. A lot of waitresses now will just throw the order at you, say write it yourself, unless you can't write Vietnamese. They'll bring their own orders. They'll forget your drinks. Like there's been many times we order food, then we'll order beer after. We don't get the beer for like 20 minutes later. And if you complain about anything, they'll get angry at you. So, and I don't mean to like attack the service of Vietnam. It just really is bad. It's really bad. And the English, yeah. If you're in a tourist area, yeah. Like, but if you're out in the countryside or like somewhere where it has low tourist rates, then no, not at all. What is it? So many people complain that lousy service in Vietnam. Like we just talked about, it's true. One part of the reason it's overcrowded, no, that's a bad excuse. But can I use this as an excuse? Yeah, that's true. But overall, Vietnamese service is kind of bad. Just accept it. You're in their country. Most Vietnamese, 98% of them don't even notice it. And another thing that I'm not going to get too deep into, but typically Vietnamese customers, like the guys and stuff, they usually treat the staff like crap anyways. They'll throw stuff at them. They'll spit on the ground near them. They'll yell at them. They'll like force them to drink alcohol. They just treat the staff like dirt. So for them to treat you nicely, kind of look at it like that. Like you'll understand why they don't treat you bad on purpose. They just don't care anymore. They've lost their patience. And another thing, when you do live in Vietnam, you'll start seeing like this big turnout of where restaurants like change their staff every 2 months. They're not recycling to get new and beautiful people. It's because people are walking out because they're tired of the shit. So it's kind of a love and hate relationship. The customers usually treat the staff like shit. So in return, you being a customer, the staff kind of just treats you like everybody else. But sometimes you'll get somebody really cool, be like, oh my God, where are you from? I speak English. And then they'll start treating you, they'll treat you like a customer. I'm not gonna say they're gonna treat you better, but they'll treat you like a customer. Number 10, overpayments. Situation is quite common for travelers. You visit a country, they charge you more. My friend paid, holy shit, paid $10 for a bin sun. Wow. So yeah, you will be overcharged. Let's talk about something different instead of just overcharging. There's something in Vietnam called white tax. It doesn't matter if you're white, Hispanic, black, Asian American, Asian Canadian, it doesn't matter, Indian, doesn't matter. As long as you're not Vietnamese local, they will charge you. If you speak Vietnamese, if you understand the money currency and what stuff costs, you'll get away with this. But ideally, white tax really just means non-local tax. So if you're not from Vietnam, they'll usually charge you a few extra. And I hear a lot of people say, well, David, they're just trying to make some money, they're hustling. And that's perfectly fine. But when they're just bluntly charging you double, like 200K, but yeah, this usually costs like 20, 25K. So it's like 80 cents to $1. They charge like $8 or $9. So this was white tax. And what was this person? I heard many foreigners only. Recently had a friend of mine and her Japanese friends. Yeah, see, an Asian person, Japanese person still got white tax. So it does happen. So the final one, number 11, the bonus, is the pollution. Pollution in Vietnam is heavy. This is why I was talking about like my skin getting old looking. A lot of people have like hair loss issues in Vietnam. The medical assistance in Vietnam is horrible. We have this joke back in the day. If you go to a Vietnamese hospital with a cold, you're gonna walk out with herpes. And the joke behind it is you end up getting more sick than you get healed in Vietnam. Vietnam really, their medical hospitals usually suck. Like 90% of them. There are good ones. Like in Saigon, there's the FV hospital. It's I think it's French. Like that's where a lot of Vietnamese, like the rich Vietnamese, get like plastic surgery done. This is where Western people go for serious surgery. But if you ever have a serious issue, like we're talking like heart attack, stuff like that, your best bets are Thailand and Japan. Vietnam truly does have a very below standard medical program. The hospital and stuff like that is really dirty. The pollution has a dirt everywhere. It's so bad. Like I watch, sometimes when I'm bored, I'll watch like ADV China videos, like Lao Y, I think it is. And they talk about just how hard it was for them to record content out there because they had to hide the pollution because it's just everywhere. Vietnam is the same. Like Vietnam is so dirty, it's insane. Like I was talking to one of the people in the comments on a video a few weeks ago about the zoos. The zoos in Vietnam, if you are an animal fan, if you respect like animals and stuff like that, for one, don't come to Vietnam because you're gonna find dogs how you don't want to see them. But two, animals are extremely abused in the zoos and they just get worse the more you get to them. I think Saigon was like the 3rd worst if you ever want to see a zoo. It's down in District 1 near Hard Rock Cafe, actually. It's right by the Hard Rock Cafe, there's a zoo there. And dude, there was people throwing cans at alligators and stuff. Like it was horrible, man. People would jump into the cages to play around with like some of the monkeys and stuff. Like it was horrible. You have that, and then with the pollution, it's very dirty in there. Pollution is just everywhere. Like it really is. So do keep that in mind. If you are in Vietnam, it's a hard haul to go with. But in general, like Vietnam is an awesome place to go. You really have to go there. And I feel like the people that truly do suffer Vietnam's wrath, I guess is the word, are the ones that live there for 5 to 7 years. And I've brought this up a few times. We actually talked about when we were in Malaysia, where I said usually 7 to 8 years, Western people are trying to get the hell out of Vietnam. You can't find YouTubers that have been in Vietnam for 8 years, just like, yeah, I love it here. And I did mention that Dustin, Vietnam Meets Dustin, that redheaded guy, there's actually 2 redheaded guys. There's the bigger guy with the beard, and then there's the skinny kid. And they all 3 speak Vietnamese, and they've been there forever, and they love it. And like I said, those are the rare cases. The majority of Western people, it just gets to them. Like it's chaos. And a lot of people are like, I'm gonna move out in the countryside. And honestly, I think the more country you get in Vietnam, like you get to like Hoi An and stuff like that, the worse it gets. Because the pollution tends to go down, but the noise, the constant like random karaoke parties, the constant yelling all the time, the constant just like beer cans thrown around, like it's insanity, man. So hopefully this is a nice 2023 update on a video we did a couple years ago and what has changed. If you want to see that old video, I'll put it up here or I'll link it below if you want to see, kind of compare these two together, because it is the same article. Hopefully that gives you an idea. I'm gonna get out here, guys. If you do like these type of videos, let me know. This was a suggestion video. Somebody asked me about like how Vietnam is, like the goods and bads. And I was like, wait, I did a video on that before. And I thought, why don't we just do an update on it? So here we are. If you do want me to go over anything about Vietnam, if you want me to talk about any subjects or material, if you guys haven't seen my teacher video, I actually had a person comment and send me this guy's video. He's an African teacher out in North Vietnam or Central Vietnam. And I was gonna review his video and I was like, you know what, F that. And we went out there and I actually interviewed him in person, and we got a full video interview of life as a non-native teacher teaching English. And he gives awesome insight. So check again, check below. I'll leave that down there. But besides that, we'll just be traveling Asia and see what's going on. So till then, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. Helps out a great deal. And I will see you again.